Summer 2021. Bear Lake, young men's camp. It became the scariest experience of my life. It all started with an unsettling feeling. A darkness clung to the lake. We arrived at Camp Grizzly. The lake shimmered invitingly, but something felt off. The stillness was profound. A shiver ran down my spine. Deep down, I knew it was something more. Something ancient and watchful lurked beneath. The camp itself did little to ease my apprehension. The cabins creaked ominously in the wind. The forest pressed close, a wall of dark green shadows. Our camp counselor, Mark, tried to lighten the mood. He told stories of past camp adventures, but his forced cheerfulness only amplified the tension. That night, as we gathered around the campfire, the stories began. Whispers of strange occurrences, unexplained lights and unsettling noises. I tried to dismiss them, but the fear in the eyes of the other campers was palpable. The next day, we set off on a hike through the dense forest surrounding the lake. The trail was narrow and overgrown, the air thick with humidity. The sun, a pale disk through the dense canopy, did little to penetrate the oppressive gloom. I felt a constant prickling on the back of my neck, a sensation of being watched. We reached a clearing overlooking the lake, a breathtaking vista of deep blue water ringed by towering pines. Mark, eager to capture the moment, pulled out his camera. He snapped a few photos of us goofing off, our forced smiles a stark contrast to the unease that gnawed at our insides. As we made our way back down the trail, Mark suddenly stopped, his face paling. "The camera," he muttered, patting his pockets frantically. "It's gone." We retraced our steps, searching every inch of the trail, but the camera was nowhere to be found. "I'll go back," I volunteered, my voice sounding unnaturally loud in the stillness of the forest. "It's probably back at the clearing." Mark hesitated, his gaze darting nervously towards the darkening woods. "Are you sure, David?" he asked, his voice laced with concern. "It's getting late," I shrugged, trying to appear nonchalant. "I'll be quick," I said, already turning back towards the trail. The truth was, I didn't want to be alone with the growing darkness, but something, perhaps a morbid curiosity, compelled me to face my fear. As I plunged back into the woods, the shadows seemed to lengthen, stretching out like grasping claws. The air grew heavy, thick with the smell of damp earth and decaying leaves. The sounds of the forest, once a symphony of birdsong and rustling leaves, faded to an unnerving silence. I was utterly alone. The clearing was bathed in an eerie twilight as I emerged from the trees. The air hung still and heavy, the silence broken only by the gentle lapping of the lake against the shore. I scanned the area where we had been sitting, my heart sinking with each passing moment. The camera was gone. Then I saw it, or rather I sensed it, a presence, a coldness that settled over the clearing, a prickling sensation that raised goosebumps on my arms. I spun around, my heart pounding in my chest. But there was nothing there. Just the trees, the lake, and the deepening shadows. I told myself it was my imagination, the fear playing tricks on my mind, but deep down I knew it was more than that. Something was watching me, something unseen and malevolent. I could feel its eyes on me, cold and calculating. Suddenly a sound pierced the silence, a metallic scraping like claws on rock coming from the edge of the woods. I froze, my breath catching in my throat. The sound came again, closer this time, followed by a low growl that seemed to vibrate in my bones. Terror lent speed to my feet. I ran towards the trail, my heart pounding against my ribs, but the sounds followed me, growing louder, closer. I risked a glance over my shoulder and saw it, a flash of movement in the trees, a glimpse of something large and dark. The metallic scraping grew louder, resolving itself into a rhythmic clinking like chains dragging across the forest floor. My blood ran cold. Whatever was hunting me, it was no ordinary animal. This was something else entirely, something ancient and evil, something that belonged in nightmares. I burst into a small clearing, my lungs burning, my legs screaming for respite. But the moment I stopped, I knew it was a mistake. The clearing was a dead end. I was trapped. The creature emerged from the trees at the opposite end of the clearing. It moved with a horrifying grace, its massive form seeming to glide over the forest floor. Its eyes, two glowing embers in the gathering darkness, fixed on me with a hunger that chilled me to my core. It was unlike anything I had ever seen. Its body, vaguely humanoid in shape, was covered in matted fur, the colour of dried blood. Its limbs were long and powerful, ending in wicked claws that scraped against the ground. Its head was a grotesque parody of a human face, with a gaping maw filled with rows of razor-sharp teeth. Before we reveal the end of this spine-chilling story, take a moment to subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us bring you more terrifying tales. Now let's continue. Terror, raw and primal, seized me. I stumbled back, my foot catching on a root. I fell, landing hard on my back. The creature advanced, its glowing eyes burning into me. I scrambled to my feet, my back against a towering pine. There was nowhere to run. I was utterly at its mercy. In that moment, only one thought formed in my mind, one desperate plea for salvation. "Jesus!" I cried out. The creature hesitated, its head cocking to the side. Then, with a snarl, it turned and melted back into the trees. The sound of its heavy footsteps faded, leaving me trembling in the darkness. I don't know how long I stood there, my heart pounding in my chest. The forest around me was silent, the only sound the gentle whisper of the wind. It was as if the creature had never been there at all. When I finally moved, it was nearly pitch black. The camp was a welcome sight, a beacon of light in the darkness. Mark and the others were frantic with worry. The terror in my eyes spoke volumes. We left Bear Lake the next morning. The camp was packed up in record time, everyone eager to put as much distance between themselves and that cursed place as possible. I didn't sleep on the bus ride home, I couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw those glowing red eyes, felt the creature's hot, fetid breath on my skin. The experience changed me. I was no longer the carefree teenager who had boarded the bus to Camp Grizzly. I was haunted, marked by the encounter. The world seemed darker, more menacing, the shadows held secrets, and the woods whispered with unseen dangers. I tried to forget, to move on, but the memory lingered, a dark stain on my psyche. The creature, the lake, the terror, it was all seared into my memory, a constant reminder of the darkness that lurked at the edge of reality. Even now, years later, the fear remains. I avoid dark places, secluded woods, and especially bodies of water. The rational part of me knows that it was just an animal, a figment of my imagination, a trick of the light. But deep down in the primal recesses of my mind, I know the truth. Something lurks in the shadows of Bear Lake, something ancient and evil, something that watches and waits, and it remembers me. I can feel its gaze on me even now, a cold, calculating presence that follows me wherever I go. It is a burden I must bear, a constant reminder of the night I looked into the abyss, and the abyss looked back. The night I encountered the creature of Bear Lake.